is one, that these are trained Pakistani soldiers. They are on
Yeah.
Indian territory. They
Yes.
are part of this entire bat action, and we are seeing bat action being revived. All of
Yeah.
this, Sushant Sareen, cannot happen till the time the Pakistanis are getting some money coming through. Now, either it's coming from the Chinese or it's coming from the West. West largely backed by the US. And that's where this, and they have a huge cache of ammunition which they carted off. And we had done this story at that time also, that they are carting off with all the ammunition that has been left behind by the Americans. The other aspect that we are given to understand is that the West wants to ease off on Ukraine. Now, unless the attention shifts elsewhere, they will not be able to ease off on Ukraine. The other aspect is global market pressures also compel them, because of energy crisis, etc., to ease the concessions on Russia. So we are given to understand two new theaters will come into action that serve multiple purposes for this West. One is this region, Jammu and Kashmir, via Kargil 2, and by activating Jammu. This entire Kashmir Khalistan aspect. The other one is Iran. Now, Hezbollah has struck against Israel. Increasingly, there is a storyboard that is building up to say that there should be some targeting of Iran, and this will happen via Afghanistan. Now, if this Afghanistan-Iran region and this region is in a flux, suddenly the attention of the world shifts to this region. Now, this is another assessment. How would you see this?
Anand, first and foremost, I think it's great to have Maroof back on the television screens. It's been a very long time since he's been there. It's a very welcome addition to have him back and to hear his voice, which is as strong as it always has been. So great to have you back, Maroof. But on your question, Anand, look, the report which you have published today, this is probably a kind of an assessment, a kind of a scenario building which has happened. Now, there are some elements of it with which I am more than happy to go along with, and I would be of the same view. There are others which probably I'm not entirely convinced of. So, for example, if we are talking about wanting to open new theaters of conflict, I think there's a very live theater of conflict in the Middle East, in Israel and around Israel. What has happened with Hezbollah, and one doesn't know how that will escalate. Already we are seeing the Red Sea, crisis unfold. And yes, Iran has been a problem, but will the Taliban be ready to go after Iran? I have my doubts on that, because I think the Taliban have a kind of worked out a kind of a modus vivendi with Iran. And despite all their sectarian differences and everything else, I think they will have a working relationship going forward with Iran, with all the ups and downs, because they are already involved and getting involved into a much deeper and much more serious conflict with Pakistan. So one is that factor. The second factor is on the India-Pakistan factor. Look, I won't entirely rule it out, but I think it will be a bit of a stretch to think that the Pakistanis can pull off a Kargil right now. I think what the American interest would be, because we have not seen the Americans say or hector Pakistan on the issue of terrorism, which has started once again. They have completely quiet. In fact, they've been lauding Pakistan's contribution in the war on terror. Now, frankly, the Americans are not going to look at situations the way we look at it. Superpowers can lose a couple of conflicts and lose interest in some conflicts, but they never lose sight of their interests, and they will always keep all balls in play. So Pakistan is the ball which they're going to keep in play. That does not mean that they're going to give tons of money to Pakistan.
Right.
I would imagine what their aim would be, that the Pakistanis finger us a little bit, and then, as has been our usual want in the past, that we will go like a crybaby, like Arun Shori used to say that, "Mama, come, this guy is hitting me, please help me." So we'll go running to the Americans, and the Americans will then tell us that, okay, fine, but you wanted strategic autonomy, so you should be able to handle this thing on your own.
Right.
I don't think we should go to the Americans and run behind them. I think this was something which we should have anticipated, we should have expected, and we should have prepared for. On the weapons, for example, which the Pakistanis have, I would imagine that the bulk of those small weapons remain back in Afghanistan. There is probably a flourishing arms bazaar also. Some would have definitely come Pakistan's way. But look, remember one thing, even in the TTP and the Baloch freedom fighters strikes in Pakistan, they are using these very same weapons. And that's given them a bit of an edge. We should have woken up to this and prepared for this way back in 2021 when Kabul fell. But as is the way we normally handle defense and security matters, we will not react until and unless the water has not just reached the neck level, but it's crossed the head.
Head.
So I think there's still time before we wake up and do something about it, and we start preparing our soldiers
The
and
only
our
thing,
security personnel kind of equipment they need.
the only
So,
thing this time around, should we preempt this, and should we not only understand the scenario what is happening, but preempt this scenario, because there's a lot that's happening suddenly and very, very fast. It's been building over the last 18 to 24 months, if not more, in this Jammu region. But now what we see, we had the DGP say that this will be there till the winter action and then they will go back. But is there something more that's going to happen? Because of how this infiltration is happening, not just via the LOC or from Kashmir into Jammu, it's happening from Punjab also. We've just got more inputs here, and then I'll get your thoughts, all of you gentlemen, again. Now, there's a clear change in strategy, ladies and gentlemen, pushing infiltrations via Jammu and Punjab. And we're getting you more information. Our security affairs expert Manoj Kumar Gupta accessing more information. There seems to be zero ground contact of foreign terrorists with OGWs. And even if there is, what's happening is they are just coming to facilitate the entry and then they're vanishing. They're not hanging around, and they're not the ones who are the eyes and ears. Jammu and Punjab are the new battleground for Pak-sponsored terrorism. The infiltration is happening in Jammu and Punjab, backed by the Pakistani army. More than 50 FTs or foreign terrorists have already infiltrated, and they've been supported actively by the Pak army. This is the information we have. Jammu, Punjab, sources are telling us that almost 50 FTs are there from Pakistan into the Jammu region. And in fact, recently, just the other day, there was this group. What they are doing is that they are young, trained, radicalized, who are being pushed, and they're pushed in groups of 4 to 7. And without depending upon local contact in Bharat. They're pushing them without the dependence on OGWs. These terrorists are being sent in groups of 4 to 7. 7 infiltrations have happened in Punjab last week. Sketch of one of the 7 suspects was also released. In fact, they tried to ask the locals something and then they were alerted. But these people are trying to find their way on their own. So let's go back to Maruf Raza, Sushant Sareen and SP Ved and try and understand from them. Would you want to put 2 and 2 together? Would you want us as a nation to say, this is our sovereign territory, there is infiltration that's being facilitated, let's just wipe it out before the build-up happens, Maruf Raza? Should we preempt a strike?
See, Anand, my view is pretty hardline on these things. The first thing is we have exhibited our ability to hit Pakistan at places of our choosing, especially after Uri and the Balakot strikes. And we can do it again and again. So we must now get ourselves together. This peace dividend and all this nonsense can be left behind. And celebrations from Kargil are well done. Thank you very much. But now let's get back to it. We must prepare our equivalent of BAT teams to go into POK and hit Pakistan at their vulnerable areas. Whenever our troops have gone in, Pakistan army and its army mentoring the militants have been found sleeping or rather lethargic, because one difference between our forces and theirs is our officers are willing to put their neck on the line. Their officers are not willing to put their neck on the line. They make their jawans cannon fodder. Second thing is that this conflict scenario will carry on until we wait for one big explosive push from Pakistan to which we can react. I don't think it's prudent. You nip it in the bud. You carry on and hit them. And we know that by understanding, we have details of all the militant camps that they are nurturing in POK. Send your special mission and they will go and hit them, at least in half of them. Remember, when our commandos went in after Uri, hit Pakistan and came back, we were too kind to the Pakistanis when their generals say that if you don't admit, then we are okay, but if you admit, we'll have to hit you back. We have to be like boxers. And we have to tell them, come on, hit me and I'll bloody hurt you even harder. So we have to take that approach, and none of this nonsense that the Pakistan army says कि आपने कर लिया जो कर लिया, अब हमको जो है, don't embarrass us more in front of us. We have to repeatedly rub their nose in their own sand. Unless we do it, we will continue to keep debating, you and I, what to do next. And the third and most important thing, we have to tell the United States that, listen, friend, you want us on your side, you better stop humoring the Pakistanis. You might want to get pettily even because Mr. Modi has hugged Mr. Putin. But we are a country that can take care of our requirements. We are not the India of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. We don't need your patronship, and we don't need you to protect us. We will hit there, and we will make it very difficult for you to operate in the Indian Ocean region, which you are obsessed with.
Somehow we have to see, we are engaging in Quad right now, even as we speak, even as we know that there is a machination that's being brewed by the West. We are engaging Quad actively on the Indo-Pacific because that's something which we are committed to. But Vatsap, how do we do this? Do you agree with Maruf that we should also be covert, but we should be brazen, and we should be far more active, and we should let them know that even before you raise your hand, we will hit you hard. If you try to get up again, we'll hit you harder. And we will still say, oh, हमने तो कुछ नहीं किया. Or should we say, हमने क्या किया? लगी आपको अच्छा, ठीक है, बैंडेड मंगाइए, हम भेज देंगे आपके लिए. Or, somewhere we got to tell the West that, they cannot continue to use us like punching bags, or they cannot continue to bully us like they are trying to do right now.
Absolutely. Anand, I completely agree with Marufji, and it was nice seeing him after a long time, as
Sushant.
My Sushant ji said. I think proactive response from India is required, and it should not be just reactive. Udi hua to humne ye kar diya. No, just hit them, and hit them where it hurts them hard. And I think today the technology, you have sophisticated drones, you have all the inputs about where are they have all these launching pads, training camps. I think we should, without even crossing the IB and LOC, we can do that. The PAT actions, of course, the Indian Army has been earlier also doing, and let it be proactive. And I think India is capable today. Pakistan is a state in very, very bad shape, and I don't think they can even afford what all, as your presentation mentioned. So I think it's time, and a clear message should also go to the West also, that India is not that India of 90s. Let them be very clearly mention we can handle this. And just because we have a special relationship with Mr. Putin, Russia, I think the way they stood behind us in 71, India owes that. India has to stand with Russia. And also, as Maruf ji said, we can't allow Russia to get too close to China also, because we have to counterbalance there. And clear message must go. And I think India should hit back and needs to be proactive. We must use all our means and resources and give back to Pakistan.
See, because it's not going to be easy, Sushant Sareen. And final word here, because one, we'll have to up the recruitments. We'll have to train them faster. We'll have to increase our deployment in Jammu and Kashmir. We should do it actively, because we cannot afford to compromise on deployment in LAC. So how are we going to counter deploy and improve our resources on ground in Jammu? So that's the internal aspect. The external aspect, if it turns into a full-blown conflict, it will bleed us, because it'll drain our resources. If we keep it short and sharp and localized and continue to hurt them before they build up, do you believe that's a far more effective strategy? If yes, then why haven't we started doing it yet?
No, Anand, I don't think it affects your economic growth any which way. Let me make it very, very clear. In 89-90, the Pakistanis started this business, And frankly, once we got our policy framework right, our economy has done well. So if you get your economic policy right, what happens in Jammu and Kashmir really does not affect your economy so much. Or these kind of conflicts we can handle. We are a continental sized country. We can handle it. One. Secondly, but we have to be also careful that it's not just Kashmir and Jammu that we are talking about.
Ji.
We are also talking about Punjab.
Punjab,
And if
yeah.
and I hope my fears are wrong and entirely misplaced, but I see Punjab going back to the 1980s within the next 6 months, 1 year, maybe 2 years. Because we are not doing anything about it. We are following a policy of appeasement. We are letting the Khalistani element carry out their propaganda including from the Golden Temple. The SGPC is openly lauding the Khalistanis, and there is no let or hindrance on that entire propaganda machinery. So clearly we are now looking at K2 once again. So we need to be very mindful of this kind of a front that is also opening up.
Right.
So we have to take care of that. But I would completely agree with what Maroof and Mr. Vaid are saying, that when it comes to hitting back, I think you have to have a proactive approach. This business that, okay, fine, we'll wait until we can't bear it anymore and then we'll hit back. I don't think that really works. And remember one thing, strategically, Anand, if you were to activate your front with Pakistan at this point in time, yes, there will be a cost for us, but look at the cost for them.
Correct.
They are trying to divert all their forces right now to control Imran Khan, number one. Number two, to control the Taliban, right? Now, if they are going to be committed on the Western Front and the internal front, then let's open their Eastern Front as well. And catch them into a bit of a bind. This is exactly what happened in the past when they were caught on these two fronts, and they found it extremely difficult to handle both active fronts on the western side and on the eastern side. So I think this is something that we need to be mindful of, and proper planning needs to be done. It should not be a knee-jerk kind of a reaction. Proper planning needs to be done. You also have to figure out how the other side is going to react. Let us not imagine that the other side will not react and up the ante.
Correct.
Then how do you climb the escalation ladder? Until now, what we have done is we did a Balakot, they retaliated. It was one step of the ladder and then both sides stepped off it. Are we ready to go to the second, third, fourth, fifth step of the ladder?
Yeah.
Are we ready to dominate?
Or do we learn? Do we learn from our other eastern neighbor and start going 3 steps forward and then 1 step back, 3 steps forward, 1 step back, and do it in a systematic way, in such a way that very soon cartographically we will say LOC, what LOC.
Ceasefire.
So is that, can we go back and push the enemy back beyond the international borders and redraw that, and do it smartly, like the PLA has been trying to redraw the non-existent border with us for many years? Is that another learning that we should, and should we not do it more proactively? That's the I think the underlying thing, that we should be proactive and not reactive. Gentlemen, always a pleasure speaking with you, and especially on national interest and national security. Have to wind up for the moment, get back to issues, some systemic maladies that we got to deal with, but we'll do that after the break. Stay with us, ladies and gentlemen, where we turn the